No helicopters have been procured for me to go to golf course. Thank you.
I've never said he wasn't a great politician. I'm just saying he's a officer.
It was supposed to be an interview.
How'd you play out there today?
Well, I found the conditions challenging, mostly because there's no grass on the golf course, but there never has been.
I'm thinking about the swag bag, and I had high hopes for the swag bag.
Trash. When you got 3 crevices on the green, your course is trash.
What's happening, everyone? Welcome back, Beltway Golfer, episode 12. Alex Dixon here. You may have noticed that my first 11 or so episodes all came out on Fridays this week. A little bit late, midweek here, but life got in the way a little bit, and decided that I'm not going to stress too much about getting them out every Friday. Gonna stick to trying to get them out every week, but if it falls behind a little bit, not the end of the world. I'm going to promote and announce them on social media when they come out, and just keep checking where you get your podcasts, and they'll be there. This week I sat down with Ethan Siemiesz, who is a caddie and assistant director of hockey at a Chevy Chase Club, as well as being a full-time member of the ice crew down at the Capital One Arena for the Washington Caps. So we sat down in person. Chevy Chase Club's got a pretty strict media policy, and I wanted to do the camera, so we decided to meet at Rock Creek Park Golf Course because they're a little more lax. They don't care about too much over there right now until National Links Trust takes over. So we found a little spot underneath a tree and sat down for about 45 minutes and had a fun conversation and learned more about all the different roles that Ethan has, and heard some stories about caddying, not just at Chevy Chase, but at some other country clubs around the area. So it was good chat. But here it is, episode 12, Ethan Siemiesz. Enjoy. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing
Good
well.
Good to be with you.
Glad to have you. So Ethan, you are a the main reason I have you out here is you are a caddy primarily at Chevy Chase Club.
Correct. Yeah.
And we're gonna talk a lot about that and a lot about caddying, but you have some other roles as well. Why don't we just start off by rattle off all of your different jobs and roles, both at Chevy Chase and elsewhere.
Well, when I first came to DC, I was at Congressional. So I worked in the bag room, the cart barn, the driving range, eventually the starter house, where I ran like the tee sheet there. And then at Chevy, I've caddied, and now I have a full-time position where I work on the ice rink, doing hockey stuff, and working at the pool as assistant aquatics director and assistant skate director.
Nice. So a lot of folks may not know. And am I pronouncing that wrong? Is it Chevy or Chevy? My entire life I've said Chevy Chase, like the actor.
I'm not from here, so I say Chevy, but I feel like a lot of the members say Chevy, like Chevy. Yeah.
I'm going to stick with Chevy. I've been saying Chevy Chase my entire life. I'm not going to change now. So Chevy Chase, they've got it's essentially in the parking lot, right? They have an ice rink during the winter months, and they've got some pretty organized leagues there, right?
Yeah, it's a full ice rink, so it's the only private country club with a full-size outdoor ice rink. So there are other country clubs with outdoor skating rinks, but they're just like pond skating for general skate. But Chevy Chase actually has 24 organized teams, including their house league. They have their own house league, but they also have a lot of travel teams, 18 travel teams and 6 house teams that play out of that rink.
6 house teams, meaning like these are members and kids of members, that sort of thing, and they
all
kind of play an interleague.
So what's interesting about their ice rink there is it's not only members, it's non-members. So for a private club, that's kind of crazy to think that way, but they need coaches for their teams. So that's the way they do it. If they bring in outside coaches who also have kids, their kids get access to the program by them coaching, and in exchange, their family gets like a winter access number to become members at the club. So we reward our coaches in that sense, where they get access to the club from November 1st to second week of March.
Gotcha. That's cool. We're going to get to a lot of the caddying and the golf, but I have a bunch of questions about the hockey.
Yeah.
So then what? So the month. What months is it open?
So the rink, actually, we build the ice typically the weekend or the week of Halloween, and we are putting down the ice, weather permitting. It's when you're dealing with an outdoor rink, everything is weather dependent. Every year has been getting warmer and warmer with global warming, or it seems. So dealing with an outdoor ice rink, there's a lot of different measures, but typically we're open from November 1st to second week of March if we can make it.
And so it sounds like it's busy, because I mean there aren't that many ice rinks around. I mean, I know you get Cabin John. I'm sure there's a couple that are big.
Laurel, Wheaton. Yeah, there's a lot of.
Those are all indoor, right?
Yep, they're all indoor. Yeah, there's no other full size outdoor rink where you can play games.
So rink time must be pretty sought after.
Yeah, for sure, and it's a big advantage to be able to have your own rink as a program, because we play against
outdoor leagues. Are those like youth leagues from around the county, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so mainly we play in indoor leagues, and when teams come to play us in our travel hockey leagues that we play in the Chesapeake Bay Hockey League. So when they come to Chevy to play us, they're playing in an outdoor atmosphere. So sometimes it can be raining, or the sun will be shining and our ice will be a little wet in spots. So the game's always often different, a lot different feel, and it's better when we can play night games, right? Because when the sun goes down, the ice is a lot better. It's really not the temperature that's an issue, because when you think about an indoor rink, it's about 60, 70 degrees inside, and it's really the direct sunlight hitting the rink causes issues on the ice sometimes.
And the rink is regulation?
Yep, and we have lights, so we play, typically during the week, they're playing until 11:30 at night, the men's league. Yeah, so it gets a lot of use.
So what kind of things do you, as the assistant director of
hockey now? So I was the assistant director of skate. So when I was the assistant director of skate, I was managing the facility a lot more. I was doing a lot more rink scheduling the ice time for the season, and now as the assistant hockey director this year, I was hoping to step into that role. With COVID, things have changed a little bit, but I would do a lot more on-ice things, player development, working with the kids, tryouts, because we are pretty competitive now with so many teams and so many members having access to the rink, and it's probably the most popular thing around Chevy.
I believe it. Is there other bleachers? Like, is there an area for fans to watch their kids and watch the?
Yeah, so there's a winter center. It's a big dining room, and it's big glass windows, and it overhangs a corner of the winter center. Actually, overhangs the rink. It's really cool. So other than that, there's no covering on the rink. Just that small little corner of the ice. It's like inside the goal line in one of the corners. So that's a cool place to watch, but it's for members only. So if you're not a member, there's like a spectator viewing deck that they made for visiting teams when they come play, and which is outdoors, uncovered. So if we do play games in the rain, which is rare, it has to be like light rain in order to play games. They're left out in the rain, but our members take good care of them. They bring them over to their side, or they send over a bottle of wine or some beers.
So does maintenance and upkeep of an outdoor rink, I imagine, aside from the sun during daylight hours,
right,
it's got to bring about some different challenges than a traditional rink, right?
Yeah, for sure. The humidity is always an issue. You're talking about keeping a thickness on the ice. That's the biggest thing we probably struggle with, because when the temperature fluctuates or when we've had a sunny day, you'll lose a good portion of your ice. And when you're looking at an NHL rink or a standard hockey rink, you want about 2 to 3 inches of ice. Okay. So we try to carry 4 inches at sometimes, just so we can get through some of the hotter, direct sunlight days.
Gotcha. And you have some experience as well working on ice rinks, not just at Chevy Chase, but downtown for our champion Washington Caps. Right? Yeah. So
I've been working for the Washington Capitals since 2015 when I moved here, and I started on their shovel crew. So back then, the Washington Capitals, previously, before I started working with them, they used volunteer shovelers. And if you don't know, if you've probably been to a Caps game and you've seen them, or you've been to a game at a different rink where other rinks use girls in short skirts or cheerleaders to shovel the ice during TV timeouts. They do it 3 times a period typically. And they go out and they clean up all the snow off the ice to make a better playing surface in the meantime before the Zamboni can get out there at intermission. And the players really need it. It's a necessity with the level of hockey that they're playing. And so I started doing that, and now I'm on their full-time ice crew. I've been on the full-time ice crew since the 2016 season, the start of that season.
Got it. And being on the ice crew, what does that entail? Are you driving around Zambonis? What are you doing?
So there's 2 drivers that drive every game. We have a extra driver. One of the driver's sons also drives for some games. But there's a lot of other things that go into taking care of the ice for a game. Like we have to drill the peg holes for the net. We check the setup of the boards because there's so many different things going on at that arena between basketball and concerts. So they're always covering the ice with a basketball court and then uncovering it from day to day. So we always check the glass before the game. We'll push on it, make sure everything's in place, check the benches.
Responsibility, right? Because that seems like a giant pain in the ass.
Yeah, all of that stuff is done by our night crew. So it's always done after the game overnight, and then the facility is always set up for the next event during the day. When my crew does assist with that, it's during quick changes. So when we have a basketball game at noon and a hockey game at 7, we will go in at about 1 o'clock. And as soon as the basketball game ends, we'll start clearing the floor of chairs because a basketball court is much smaller than a hockey rink. So you got to clear out the floor, then you pull apart the floor, the basketball court. You get that off there, and then you start building the glass. The boards are always there, but then you put in the glass inside the boards, and then once you can get the glass in, you start removing the covering on the ice. So the covering on the ice is like a 2-inch composite board that pieces together like a puzzle, helps insulate the ice.
So that goes in between the basketball floor and the ice?
Yep,
Okay.
yep. And they build the basketball court right on top of that. So we piece that off, and then you're left with a floor that, like an ice surface that looks very dirty. It's got all the checkered marks from the boards, and people spilled sodas and coffees, whatever, on the floor, beers. And so our Zambonis, we actually have Olympias over there. They're almost like a different brand of ice resurfacer. Okay. Most people think like an ice resurfacer is only called a Zamboni, but...
Is Zamboni a brand?
Zamboni is a brand,
I
yeah.
had no idea.
Yeah, so I'm even from New England, like hockey country, and even growing up, I joke with my boss at the Caps, like, everybody just thinks it's a Zamboni, but he's a big Olympia guy because that's who they're sponsored by and stuff.
Is a competitor of Zamboni.
Yeah, and they're pretty big. The NHL's like split 15 and 15, but anyway, ice resurfacers have a huge long blade on them, and it cuts the ice. And typically when you're making ice, you're cutting into the ice, so you're cutting out skate marks and whatever's on the top layer of ice, and it's almost like a snowblower throwing snow into the big dump tank, and you're laying water behind you at the same time. But when we do a changeover, you want to cut off the top couple layers of ice before you start laying water behind you and making ice. So they'll come out and do some dry cuts, is what it's called. They'll cut the ice, cut it down until they get a nice clean sheet, and then they'll start building up a couple layers before the game.
How long does that total process generally take? You're talking about if there's an NBA game
right.
day or a basketball game, and then a Caps game at night.
So typically from the moment the final buzzer happens in a basketball game to the moment we can drive the ice resurfacer, the Olympia on the ice, to start making ice for a game, about 2.5 hours. So if we can do it in less, they're pretty happy. Sometimes we do it in 2 hours and 10 minutes, sometimes 2 hours and 40 minutes, but it's always in that range there.
So how many games a year are you working?
I work every single home Capitals game, so 41, and then preseason games and playoffs, typically around 60 games a year.
So how was the championship season? That was something else.
It was one of the best moments of my life. We got the Capitals treated their employees right. They sent a bunch of us to Vegas, but I already had plans to go out there for games 1 and game 2. So we got to watch that in Vegas.
You were gonna go on your own dime?
I went on my own dime. I was already out there when they decided. They didn't tell their employees that they were like sending a bunch of full-time employees on a private chartered plane until like the day before the game happened, because you don't even know who you're playing in the Stanley Cup Finals until like 5 days before. But I had already made up my mind that if the Caps had won the series, no matter who they were playing, I think it was either Winnipeg or Vegas, I was booking a ticket with my friend to go watch the first 2 games. And we were hoping it was Vegas, obviously, because I'd never gone to Vegas, and what a better way to go to Vegas for your team being in the Stanley Cup.
For the winning game.
I didn't go back for Game 5. I stayed in D.C., but I was there for Games 1 and Game 2.
Yeah.
And then it was a dream come true come Game 3 in Washington, D.C., where as a kid growing up playing hockey, I've always had the dream of like being on the ice, skating around during Stanley Cup. Of course, I thought I'd be a player, but my primary job for taking care of the ice, I'm on hockey skates the whole game. So I primarily skate around pregame and check the ice to make sure there's no blemishes or marks to repair, and checking the peg holes in the net. And I do the national anthem carpets. We lay those out. Our crew's in charge of that. And
You get anything? You didn't get a ring, did you?
so we did, yeah. Monumental Sports, yeah. They gave everybody rings, not only the Capitals employees, the Wizards and the Mystics employees too.
Everybody.
Yeah, everybody got rings, yeah. And the best part about the whole experience was we were in the parade. We got to drive our Olympias in the parade, and we opened up like where the snow goes, and we all stood in there, and like people are yelling "Ice Crew" left and right. It's like
I was down there.
we're trying to get them like riled up. I think I actually took Slapshot's drum, and I was beating the drum, and like you have people in the crowd throwing beers and stuff, and you're trying to catch beers. It was a blast.
Oh my God, that was quite a day. I went down. I had to work, but I went down for the parade part. I missed I was back at the office for the rally, but I was watched some of the speeches and TJ Oshie doing his
chug, yeah,
chugging a beer through his jersey on TV. But what a day!
Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah,
that's cool. So you mentioned that you grew up in hockey country up in New England.
Yeah, so I'm from a small town in New Hampshire, just outside of Manchester, New Hampshire, which is like the big city down south there. Not too far from Boston, 30 minutes from Boston, so I'm a big Boston sports fan. I was a Bruins fan until I started working for the Caps, but yeah, I grew up a 3-sport athlete: hockey, baseball, golf. All played them all in high school, and then when it came time to choose college, I had some Division III college hockey offers and a couple walk-on opportunities at D2 golf. So I chose the golf over the hockey, just because I like the school better, more so the money that I was getting from the school to go there for tuition and education, and they had the program what I was looking for. I was looking to manage or major in sport management.
So you and I, how we got hooked up was you were actually caddying for me. I got invited out to Chevy Chase by a member.
Yep.
John Beggert. Shout out to John Beggert who brought me out there. I want to say it was 2 years ago. After I randomly met him down at the homestead. And then I played with him and a couple of his buddies. I think they were also members. And you caddied for all four of us.
Yep. And you told me about Beltway Golfer, and I followed you on Instagram. And
there you go. So I got a ton of questions about just caddying there and caddying in general. My first one, you're not going to remember this, but I have a question. So on the first tee at Chevy Chase, I striped one. Like I had the first tee. It bends a little bit left.
Yeah,
not a dog left, because a little bit
it's
left
a very tough
downhill.
opening hole, actually.
And I hit it perfect, and I'll never forget because you told me I was excited. I was playing Chevy Chase the first time. You told me it was from I don't remember what tees we were playing, but you said I haven't seen anybody hit it as in your spot as far down here since I've been caddying here. And my question for you, I'm sure you don't remember that, but how many people do you tell that?
I was just thinking when you said that, I was like, oh, it sounds like something I've said to a lot of people I've caddied for, especially guests,
For a good 3 or 4 holes, I was walking on air, and then it finally hit me. I was like, you must say that to every dude that comes through.
Yeah, I do love caddying. I mean, I definitely, God, over the years, it's so much fun caddying. It's like the most fun job you could ever have, especially if you love golf. I mean, the caliber of golfer, you could have a scratch golfer or a 20 handicap, and it's fun because you can improve a 20 hand. I actually like caddying for higher handicaps more, especially if they're playing in like a competitive environment, because I can have them see the course differently or hit different shots.
So you like that because you essentially have a bigger impact on
yeah
round.
Yeah,
Oh, that's interesting.
especially in like a member guest or something. If you give me like a 18 handicap that knows what they're doing, and you just coach them through a par, they oftentimes they're high handicaps because they try shots that they see their friends try, and they shouldn't be trying, They should just be laying up or hitting to a safe spot where they can easily putt on and two putt,
If you can coach a guy who's an 18 handicap around to a par or a good score, they're probably a lot more thankful. Probably leave you a better tip.
Yeah, I mean, it's rewarding either way, but it definitely depends on the caddy. We have some funny character caddies, like if they call them ball beaters in the caddy shack, like if they're a ball beater and stuff. But we got some caddies that have been doing it for like 30, 40 years. So, and they're not afraid to speak their mind. So if a guy's hitting like his 7th or 8th shot on a hole and he's not even on the green yet, some of the caddies will just be like, pick it up. Let's go on to the next hole, Whereas like I'm a little more laid back and cautious as to how I treat a guest of a member and stuff. So I'm always willing to help them out and deal with it,
That's funny. So what is the caddy? You're talking about all the other caddies at Chevy Chase. I think the average golfer has got an idea in their head of what the caddy shack looks like because of the movies.
Yeah.
What goes on in the real caddy shack? Give us a peek in the window.
Chevy Chase is actually managed by a company. He's actually a local guy from here. He'd be a great interview for you. His first name's Kirk. I can't think of his last name for now, but he owns 4C Caddies. Okay. He started here in this area. He got Chevy Chase and Columbia were his first 2 major courses. Okay, because Chevy used to actually have issues with their fights and whatnot, different things going on there. This was way before I came along, but yeah.
Any idea how long ago that contract started?
I think it started in like 2008 or 2009 or something, so it's not that recent, but because there's a caddy master now and a caddy manager that they pay, things are pretty low key. You see a couple characters here and there that have been like, bouncing around different courses in the area, but for the most part, it's a lot of members' kids at Chevy because that's allowed there. It's not allowed at a lot of courses, but it is allowed there. You have a lot of college, not golfers, but college athletes that did play golf growing up, or they're home from college, they caddy for the summer. It's a perfect summer job. And then you have, of course, your veteran caddies that have been doing it for like 40, 50 years, and they're around. And actually at Congressional, there's a guy, Maurice Daniels. He's been caddying for over 60 years there.
At Congressional?
Yeah, and he's skinny as a rail. He's been there since he was like a 13-year-old kid. And you ask him, he's got all the great stories. He's like, back when I was caddying, you used to get, $2 a bag, and you'd walk home with, $4 in your pocket. You'd be happy, and you could get a Happy Meal at McDonald's for, a nickel. And it's like,
is
the
it
funniest
are
stories
people
ever.
Trying to get out there like first thing in the morning so they can do 36, do like 2 or 3?
Yeah,
you
so
do 3 loops, can you? Or
it's been done, but I would say it's more so you see a lot of 36. I've heard of 3 loops like in less humid climates. Here in DC, it's probably pretty tough to do 3 loops, but there was often 36 holes, especially at like courses like Chevy, which is walking only. You need like a doctor's medical excuse to take a cart at Chevy. And then Congressional, which most of the loops are actually on carts. They get brand new carts every year, so they're like state of the art. They got nice cushy seats. They got the GPS. They're very inviting, and the pace of play is always an issue. And people want to take pictures, and it's a U.S. Open course, so most of the loops there are actually on the back of carts for caddying.
And where the caddy's walking ahead.
Yep, I actually think that's more work because at Congressional they would have their 4 caddies carry all 4 putters. And it's kind of difficult at first. You're just meeting these people, and a lot of times it's 10 minutes before you tee off, and you're trying to remember which putter goes to which bag. And yeah, I try to do little, like, whatever putter head cover color and match the shirt until you get to know the guys a little bit. But you're carrying 4 putters, and sometimes the guys will have an 8-iron and a 60-degree wedge, and a couple guys miss the green. All of a sudden you got like 10 clubs in your hand, and you're passing out the 4 putters, and you're raking a couple traps. So I prefer to just have the 2 bags, be responsible for my guy. And
so does that happen more often than not? I think that when you caddy for me, you were carrying 2 bags.
Yeah.
Double bagging is pretty standard.
Double bagging is standard, depending on the course. I would say there's way more 4 caddying going on at Congressional. than carrying 2 bags.
Is there a trend? Me and my buddies were talking about this the other day. It seems like there's a trend, especially during this year, during the pandemic, where kind of walking courses is making a comeback kind of in general.
Yeah.
Like,
so
is carrying lighter bags and people having lighter bags, is that a trend?
I think it is. It's making a comeback, I would say. And
there's still some
I've heard rumors. I can't prove this, but I've heard rumors that when Congressional opens their new U.S. Open blue course, first of all, it's going to be close to 8,000 yards, which is crazy. It's going to be the first golf course around 8,000 yards. And I heard it's going to be walking only for at least the first year, maybe even forever, unless you have an excuse. So that would be interesting because they already have a huge caddy program there between the 2 courses. And
8,000 yards, and that's just the course. 8,000 yards is exactly 5 miles.
Yeah.
Maybe, or just about 5 miles. And that doesn't count zigzagging around the course. That doesn't count, from green to tee.
Right. Or both, you're carrying 2 bags, one's left, one's right.
Right. That is a workout. That's interesting. So you're talking about carrying 4 putters and this club and that club. Are guys? How often do people get angry at you about club selection? Is that
doesn't happen too often. I would feel like no. That if they do, they might say something back on the tee box when I'm caddying. I don't know, but I try to feel it out for the first couple holes before I even recommend a club, or I'll just typically recommend a yardage, and then I'll get to see what they're hitting on a consistent basis, or I'll make a note about it, like, okay, they've hit their 8-iron a couple times, 150 yards, and then I'll start pulling the club for them and recommending it. But a lot of caddies won't even do that. They'll just hand them the bag and just they'll give them the yardage, just let them pick. But it all depends on what kind of caddy you are and how you want to tailor to your golfer. Every golfer is different too, based on how they want to interact with their caddy. Especially now during COVID, I've had a couple loops that where I've caddied for a guy who's terrified of the disease, so I can't even touch his clubs. I'm wearing a face mask and I'm just driving a cart with his golf clubs on it, and the guy that's clubs are on the cart with him, I'm grabbing his clubs, exchanging clubs back and forth, and the other guy, I'm just not touching his clubs at all.
That's fun.
Yeah, and it's so it's just all sorts of different interactions with people.
And that. Yeah, the caddying during the pandemic. That's a whole nother.
Yeah, there's some golfers that don't want their yardages, some golfers that do, and it's all different. And some golfers won't even ask you.
Having a caddy required?
It is if you have a guest, which is standard around almost every country club.
And that's still been the case during the pandemic?
Yes, yeah. But they aren't allowing guests really, only during member guests. But there's a lot of members there that always walk and they play in groups on certain days, and they always take caddies. So there's a lot of members at Chevy that support the caddy program.
So you had mentioned to me earlier, we played a couple holes here before we started recording. You've had 1 or 2 kind of celebrity loops.
Yeah.
About a certain football star. Why don't you tell us that story?
Yeah, so I've caddied for a lot of politicians, but nobody like this guy, Peyton Manning. I caddied for at Chevy Chase, and it was crazy how it came to be. I told you that all the caddies play golf on Mondays, and how it came to be, I got in the good graces of the caddy master by deferring playing golf because a loop showed up on the same day that all the caddies were playing golf, and I jumped on the grenade and took the group out and caddied on my day off, pretty much, and I was in his good graces. So later that week, when he found out that Peyton Manning was coming, he texted me to come in. He usually texts us tee times on a Saturday or something, and I looked at my phone when I woke up, and it said 10:24 Peyton Manning, and I thought he was calling me Peyton Manning because he jokes around, he'll say call me sheriff and weird stuff like that. So I was confused, and I drove to the caddy house, and all the caddies were like, "Oh my God, you got Peyton Manning." I was like, "No, you guys are lying. Peyton Manning, what is he doing here?" This was 2018. He had just played his last game in the NFL December 2017. So I mean, he was nobody knew what he was doing with his career. So it came to be that it was Peyton Manning, and I got to caddy for him, and it was crazy. He played with a couple members. One of the members there that he was playing with, he negotiates contracts with him for Peyton Manning. He's a high-profile lawyer, and he would oversee contracts and whatever. He's probably Peyton's like go-to lawyer. So he invited Peyton out to play because Peyton was in town. He was a keynote speaker at some charity foundation tournament. And right away, like, Peyton was like the nicest guy ever. He had these $5,000 PXGs, customized golf clubs, and these beautiful Scotty Cameron putter. It said for tour use only on the putter too. It's like crazy. And he played the back tees with one of the members' sons, who's also a member, but he's a good player. He competes in the club championship. So him and Peyton played the back tees, and then Peyton's lawyer and his friend, who's also a member, they played the white tees. So right away, I knew Peyton was a player because he piped a drive on one, and he was like talking to me coming up the fairway, and he's like, yeah, I'm a numbers guy, like just give me numbers, you know, I want to know like the front of the green, the back of the green, the pin, what do you think the wind's doing, what do you think the yardage is playing. I'm like, all right, this is gonna be fun, like I'm gonna have to work today, but it's gonna be fun. And then he hit a great second shot, and he's got like 20 feet for birdie. And I read the putt, and he's like, all right, read it this way, because I usually give my players a spot to putt over. I like to see whether they hit it on line or not, just to see if they pushed it or pulled it. But he's like, all right, you can give me a spot, but tell me what percentage you want me to hit it. Like, if it's downhill, you know, like 50%. If it's, you know, uphill, 150%. I'm a numbers guy. So I gave him a percentage, I gave him a read, and he made birdie on the first hole. It was not an easy first hole. You know, it's a tough first hole. I don't even think you made birdie after your great drive there.
I don't even think I hit the green like that.
But yeah, it was a fun round. We got to the 9th hole, which is the long par 3, and we're walking through the woods to go to the tee box there, and it's a little slow. It's a Saturday, so it was busy out there, and we're waiting for the group in front to finish. If you don't know, Chevy Chase, the 9th hole, it's one of their signature holes, 240-yard par 3, maybe 260 from the black tees. And there's Adirondack chairs around the whole back of the green, and there's a beautiful like dining terrace behind the green. And by the time we walked up to the tee box, there is probably 100 people scattered in a horseshoe around the back of the green. And Peyton looks at me and he goes, is this normal? And I'm like, no, I think people know Peyton Manning's here. And he just laughed. And
What do you do on the hole?
I think he hit it in the bunker, and he didn't get up and down. He ended up making like a bogey, if I can remember. But I will remember that he took the time to sign every kid's autograph, take whatever pictures, and he just told the guys, he's like, hey, I'll meet you on 10. So he met us late on 10, but he took the time with every kid that was waiting for him, and I thought that was really nice of him, and
Yeah, he's
really cool move.
clearly a good guy, great
And
sense of humor.
the whole round, I was like wondering, I was like, all right, am I going to tell this guy that I've hated him his whole career? I'm a Tom Brady fan. Well, I got my chance on the 15th hole. Same thing, a par 3, we're waiting for the group in front of us. The guys that he was playing with, the members, they were having a lot of conversations, but there was a quiet moment where I got a chance to talk to him. And I'm like, hey, Peyton, I just want to tell you, I'm a New England guy and Tom Brady fan all the way. Like, I've loved the Patriots my whole life, and I've hated you most of your career. And he just laughed, and he's like, you know, that's why I've been getting bad reads all day. And he just laughed it off. But the best part about that story is on 15, this was a par 3, he hit a shot to like the very front edge of the green, and the pin's in the back right. So he didn't hit it too well. But anyway, I read his putt. I was like, oh, it's a double breaker. It's going to snake here. And you got to hit it like 120%. I mean, it's all the way up the hill. And he's like, I don't think it breaks that way, but all right, whatever. And he pounded his putt. It's like a 70-foot putt. And he drained it. And we like met halfway as he's going to pick up his ball and high-fived. It was awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
I was like, so that's like my favorite hole now on the whole course, like
sounds
the 15th.
like he had a few birdies out there.
Yeah, he did. He had 3 birdies. Number 10 is a very short par 5. He also birdied that one. But he did have his share of bogeys. I think he ended up, it's a par 70, and I think he shot like a 77, which isn't bad.
That's cool. Yeah, it was neat to see him and TB12 along with Tiger and Phil doing the
Yeah.
exhibition earlier this year. It was clear that
Yeah,
he's got some game.
it was like a flashback watching him. Like the way he talked was the same way he talked to me about like his shots and stuff. And he was nice. He was nice enough to take a picture with me afterwards too. So I always have that for my memories. I didn't need an autograph. I just wanted a picture with him and in my caddy bib. And
Right. Oh, that's super cool. It's a great story.
yeah.
I would imagine Chevy Chase, they must get their fair share of local celebrities, politicians and
there's
well-heeled and well-connected folks.
Yeah, a lot of senators, a lot of lobbyists. There's like 3 Supreme Court justices that are members there, and so you see a lot of high-profile people. I've caddied for some of Trump's cabinet members, a lot of ambassadors. So it's pretty cool. A lot of cool interactions, and you get to see a different side of these politicians. It's kind of funny. See them on the golf course. Everybody's vulnerable on the golf course, right? Trying to get the ball out of the bunker, and having a rough day.
I bet. So while you were at Congressional, you mentioned you were there during the Quicken Loans.
Yeah, so I was assistant director of play by the time the Quicken Loans happened in 2016. And Tiger Woods was working his way back from injury, so he didn't play. But my job was mainly to look after the tent at the chipping area. Okay. So I had a lot of cool interactions with a bunch of different players. We basically had a station, like a tent, with all these different types of golf balls that the players hit, and we bagged them up in these, red drawstring bags. And the players would come up to our tent and they'd tell us, whoever they're sponsored by or whatever ball they hit, like Chrome, Double Soft, or, Pro V1X or Pro V1. And we'd give them the bag of the balls and they'd just chip. And then most of the players.
How many different types of balls did you have to have ready?
We had probably 8 different types of balls. There's like Chrome Soft Plus.
That covered pretty much every ball that's being used.
Oh yeah, every Callaway, whether you play Callaway, TaylorMade, Pro V, we had all of them there. Wilson staff, I think, has a ball on tour too. But so all the players, we literally see every player, and it was interesting to see the players and how they prepared. Like Ernie Els and Vijay Singh, they'd hit balls like for an hour on the chipping green, and some of the players would just hit like 5 chip shots and then go right to the tee. So it was interesting to see the differences, and also
those old-timers, they know something.
Yeah, and also the interactions that they would have with the staff, because some of them would just leave, the bag of balls there, which is fine. We're there to help pick it up, and some of them would like bring it back up to us and clean up after themselves, and some of them would interact with us. Like I can remember Billy Horschel was like joking around with me and my friend. We were just sitting there watching him, and he's like, "All right, I'll bet you $20 I can make this from here." And like he would chip, and he made it, and he's like double or nothing, and he missed that one, and he gave us each $20. It was crazy. And then Keegan Bradley did the same thing, and then he signed a glove for us and gave it to us, and so a lot of cool interactions with the players during the week.
And this is the Billy Hurley year when he won?
Yeah, so it was really interesting. It was also, you probably don't remember, but what was significant about that event, it was John Rahm's first event as a professional.
Really? No, I didn't know that.
So it was cool. I actually bet on him to win, and I bet on him to be the leader after the first round. He was the leader after the first round, which was crazy.
What did that pay out?
And I think it paid 60 to 1. It was crazy. And then him to win was like 100 to 1. It was crazy. And he was in contention toward the end, but come Sunday, the cool story was there was nobody really using the chipping green anymore Sunday afternoon, and me and my friend had been working there for all week, like crazy hours, all day. So we went and found one of the carts. They take the hood off the carts, and we went and found one of the carts, used our credential to get through some lines, and just going through spectators trying to get out there on the course to watch some of the action on the back nine. We're like, oh, Ernie Els is in contention, and we want to go watch some of these guys. And we drove our cart out to 18, and 18 and 17 are side by side, and then 15, and we're watching Ernie Els tee off on 18, and then we hear this huge roar on 15, and we look over, and that was Billy Hurley chipping in, which essentially sealed his win. It was crazy because we had known Billy put it in the bunker. He put it like almost buried it in the face of the fairway bunker, and we're like, there's no way he was probably making bogey at best, because he's got to chip out and then get up and down for par, and he ended up holing that chip shot. It was crazy.
I was on that hole. I was not near the green. I think I was down a little more of the fairway. There was a massive crowd following around at that point because it was late in the day on Sunday, obviously. But that's one of the larger roars I've heard on a golf course.
Yeah. he definitely had a huge following for him that weekend. The local guy, and
it'll be something to see. I was chatting with John Scott Rattan on an earlier podcast about a little bit about the renovation going on there, and some pictures that were posted by one of the architects, Andrew Green, on his social media, and it's of that green, of that hole 15, looking back towards the clubhouse, and it almost looks unrecognizable. Like it looks like they lowered the green quite a bit. But
I haven't been there in a while, but I'm anxious to see. I mean, I was lucky enough to work there, and I got to play over 300 rounds of golf in my 2 years of working there on both courses. I tried to close up the starter house at 6 p.m. on summer nights and grab a cart and go out there and play as many as I could wherever because I had the benefit of knowing where all the tee times were and stuff, because they have sophisticated carts with like GPS where you can see, and I saw the gaps out there, and I'd go play as many as I could. But my favorite course in the whole DC area is the Gold course at Chevy. I mean at Congressional, the Gold course. Yeah, such an awesome course. I don't know if you ever played it, but
I've only played the blue. I've not
yeah, the Gold is very nice. It's got an outside and an inside 9, which is across the road is the outer 9, right. And it has 4 par 5s over there. It's really cool. Have you heard of Looper? Looper, it was a caddy company in DC. It was like an Uber for caddies.
I did, yeah. Were you affiliated with
so that? I did do that for a little while, just to, at a certain point I was like, this.
Looper was a startup.
Looper was a startup company, started by Brad Aldridge, and who was a head pro at a course somewhere, and he had a couple partners, and basically they wanted to create an Uber for caddies, because especially in a rich urban area like DC, where you have all these very nice country clubs without caddy programs, like you're talking about Lakewood, Woodmore, let's see, there's a lot of clubs that would use it. Riverbend, they don't have a caddy program, but so you have all these clubs.
Part of the idea too is that you could hire them for public courses too, if you want.
Yeah, public courses as well. Yeah, so Lake Presidential, all these courses, and so you basically download the app. You'd see set a tee time at a course and just request a caddy, and all the loopers, the registered caddies on the app, would see any tee times on there, and you could just pick it up and add it to your schedule, and you'd go do it.
And so you did that for a while.
I did that at a number of courses, and I thought it was pretty cool just to.
Are they not around anymore?
I think that they've like specialized in tournaments now, so they do a lot of corporate planning for tournaments, and they still have a deep caddy pool, or they have connections of caddies and stuff. And
for a while, I remember because they started up. I don't know. It seemed like 3 or 4 years ago. Maybe it was longer than that. But I remember seeing their flyers quite a bit at different golf courses.
Yeah, they tried to like take over a couple of golf courses with caddy programs too, because there's so many caddies in DC. I mean, you talk about Trump, TPC, Potomac, Columbia, Chevy, Congressional. That's 5 courses with, and RTJ. That's 6 courses with big caddy programs. So they tried to take over there to like become the new caddy system.
Yeah, I mean it's a great idea. I'd like to do that. Go down to East Potomac.
Request a caddy for it.
Yeah, might get a couple sideways glances if I showed up with a caddy. So how many years have you been a caddy for, like total?
Well, every year I've been in DC, so probably this is my 5th year. So since 2015, and I've caddied at a lot of clubs.
See some, like Al Cervic, Judge Smales moments with guys, guys kind of really getting after it, whether it be gambling or arguing or getting in fights on course.
I've seen like $100 Nassau's and stuff, and I've heard stories of big gambling actually, but Congressional would be a spot for that a lot, and I haven't caddied as much as at Congressional as much as at Chevy, but I've heard stories of Michael Jordan out there, because I've caddied at Four Streams. He's still a member over at Four Streams out in Poolesville. That's a pretty exclusive club. They only have 90 members now, but I caddy out there when I get called upon to caddy out there. And Michael Jordan's agent, David Falk, is still a member out there, and he still plays. And I've caddied for him a dozen times or so. And those guys, they like to play like $100 Nassau's or $100 a hole and stuff. And
according to some of the stories about Jordan, I think it's a lot more than that.
Yeah.
Working for the name of the contractor that
4C.
4C, working for 4C. So since they have contracts all around, so you might get called out to some other clubs
yeah. So
certain tournaments.
their like home course is RTJ. Okay. That's where Kirk, who owns 4C, is like based out of, and he's actually RTJ. If you don't know, President Obama became a member there. He tried to join Woodmont, and they didn't really want the whole circus because I've seen it firsthand. When I was working at the starter house at Congressional, Bill Clinton played with Terry McAuliffe a couple times, and he's like a 2-time removed president. It's been a while since he's been president, right? But he still carries a circus with him. There was for the two of them to play golf, they took probably 20 golf carts, which is kind of crazy. You know, taking 20 golf carts is a lot, even for a course that has 160 golf carts. But and they need like a buffer of like 2 holes on each side of them. So, and it's even more for like a standing president or maybe somebody like Barack Obama. He might need like a 3-hole buffer on each side of him, and he might have 30 golf carts. Who knows? Like there's a Secret Service agents are walking all over the place. They're checking holes, they're checking bunkers of the guy that plays in front of them and behind him, and so it creates kind of a zoo. And RTJ is a much better place for it. It's like out there in Manassas, and it's a nice piece of property. And I've heard actually from Kirk, because I just caddied with him, that whenever he caddies for Obama out there, he doesn't go in the clubhouse ever. He just plays and goes home. So he must feel the pressure of it or something, you know. Yeah, it must be tough on him, you know, because everywhere he goes becomes the more scene he causes.
It is for maybe some folks
yeah.
Having to deal with that. So during the pandemic at Chevy Chase, the guests aren't allowed out, at least for the time being, because you're saying there's 12-minute tee times.
Yeah, so there's so many members at all these clubs, and especially now with tee times, a club like Chevy typically doesn't have tee times. They're very old school, and they like to just be like a walk up and play mentality. Like if you're bringing high profile guests out, you can give them a call and say, hey, we'll be there around this time, but you don't have a formal tee time there. But during the pandemic, they have been having formal tee times, and once you start doing that and you can have people reserve things in advance and plan out more, you get to see how many more members you have. And how much more utilization the golf course gets. Versus when you just have walk-up, you kind of see who's going to play, and you can kind of like, you can spread them out at your leisure, you know, like, oh, they teed off 6 minutes ago, but they're already done with the first hole, so you can tee off, you know. But when you have set tee times, you really limit the usage of the course.
So during normal times, when guests do come out, you know, for folks, especially younger golfers, who are not members of country clubs, maybe never been invited to play a country club, or maybe haven't played one as kind of high-end as Chevy Chase, the experience can be intimidating.
Yeah, I believe it, yeah. I was actually intimidated when I first walked on there to try to caddy over there. I didn't know, when I was coming to DC, I didn't know if I was going to caddy at Congressional and get a job full-time in the bag room at Chevy, or vice versa at Congressional at Chevy. So I was kind of intimidated by both places, because you build it up in your mind, especially if you're not from this area, or even if you are from this area, you think of Congressional and you're like, oh, that's like where they have Tiger Woods tournament. It's like a very prestigious place. And for the most part, you see some guys that are a little nervous on the first tee, and you try to give them a second shot, or let them hit 2 off the first tee, or 2 in a certain area. And they end up calming down once they get off the first tee or get out there. But
what would you say to someone that's listening to this and maybe they've got their first invite to a high-end country club coming up, as far as what should they expect?
I would say it's more built up in your mind. It's more mental about like how, if you think it's like prestigious or stuffy, a lot of these guys are really cool and down to earth, and they like to just get after it and have a good time. Like especially you see it in the member guests and all these tournaments that they play. Like these guys just want to drink beers with the boys and hang out and have a good time. So
I know my round at Chevy Chase, I had lost count of how many transfusions we had by the time we made the turn.
Right.
Well, listen, this has been a lot of fun. I appreciate you coming out. Hopefully, I get the chance to play some more golf with you, and maybe if I'm lucky, you'll be on my bag once again at some point.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I hope the Caps can get back to Capital One Arena, so you can get back to work down there as well. Obviously,
yeah.
This year was.
Who knows when they're going to start the new season?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, that's a huge question.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, we'll wrap it up there. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
I don't have a good golf game, but I don't really care. I'm a regular dude living in DC, and I want to know about DC-centric golf stuff. If you can tell me something that I don't already know, then that is great for me. I don't want the regular stuff. I want exciting stuff. I want different stuff. I want stuff I can't hear elsewhere. But I want it to be about DC golf.